Rugby. Look at this collar. All my shirt collars are stretched like this. This lav mic is gonna have to go on a stick or something. On to the rugby update. Italy versus New Zealand, Ireland versus Japan, England versus Tonga, Wales versus South Africa, France versus Argentina, and Scotland versus Australia. Let's just go in chronological order. Italy versus New Zealand. What a difference a defense coach makes, eh? Italy finally looked like a tier 1 team against the All Blacks. And just like all the other tier 1 teams, the All Blacks battered them like fish after the 60-minute mark. New Zealand can't be too happy with their performance though. They were dropping balls left and right and were way off their best. It did not stop them from breaking their record for most points by a test team in a year though, taking that record from South Africa in 2007. Why? Why must we always be second best to New Zealand? Hate it! Ireland versus Japan. Japan is in a bit of a slump. And Ireland are flying pretty high. I was only glancing over at this game while the All Blacks were playing, but it looked like the Japanese defense out wide could just not stop Ireland from making meters. It was balls out the back and swivel passes all day long from Sexton and the boys, and they were carving up the Japanese. Hopefully Japan can build some kind of form before their match against Scotland in a few weeks. And Ireland, just keep doing what you're doing. New Zealand, though, are going to be a much harder test. England versus Tonga. England was always going to smash Tonga. We know this. For all of Tonga's power and talent, sometimes you just can't overcome a massive disparity in operating budget. These two teams are not even on the same planet when it comes to funding and training times. It shows on the field. In an alternative universe, Tonga is rich, and they compete at the top of world rugby along with Samoa and Fiji. In this cursed universe, Logan Paul gets any attention. England has all the money and Eddie Jones can put together a monster squad. Wales versus South Africa. These announcements really don't work with my accent. It sounds stupid. Whew! Man, winning in Wales brought a real warm, fuzzy feeling to my heart. And it was welcome since COVID regulations left the stadium roof open and let in pissing rain and pitch invaders. Like all wet games, 3 points from a penalty was like a try. And a try was basically a match winner. This time again, cue both teams taking their 3 points when it was on offer. And running rugby was really not the order of the day. The Boks, playing in the north for the first time in a few years, just kept in touch in the game, and once their bench came on, you could see them just starting to grind Wales into paste. Wales are a quality side and their run on 15 can beat anyone, but you could tell the benches are not equal. South Africa is like way up there. So, classic rainy match. Get a penalty, kick it into the corner. Maul for a try, win the game, on to Scotland. Probably in the pissing rain. France versus Argentina. Nah, still terrible. This game did not go like I thought it would. France won, which, of course, they are the current French team, but Argentina gave them a much tougher game than I thought they would. This French team looks like the rugby version of racy lingerie, but just like lingerie, sometimes you can't just rely on the looks to break down a good defense. You need to build pressure first. That makes sense. In the Rugby Championship, the Pumas were just giving up meters like they were French or something. This time they were much more aggressive in defense, and they were even in the lead at half-time. What? In the end, Lego Man and his fancy cohorts constructed some pretty tries, and that was the end of that. Scotland versus Australia. Ew. Last and defo not least, Scotland beat an in-form Australia at a packed Murrayfield. Whoa, what? Now, I'm not saying Australia lost because Karevi wasn't there in this sentence. Without Karevi, though, Australia were trying to run around the Scottish defence on first phase instead of through and then around like they did in the Rugby Championship when Karevi was there. What I'm saying is Australia lost because Karevi wasn't there in this sentence. Scotland are also not your daddy's mid-2000s Scotland. These guys are filled with lions and South Africans. They have beaten England in England and France in France. They can grind out a win if they need to, and they can turn on the style. Do not underestimate them. Jock, don't underestimate them. Come, other news. Come. The Boks continued their new trend of announcing squads on Tuesday, and it's a goodie. Again, it feels weird to just be happy with the Springbok team every week. It's been so stable, in fact, that I wrote this paragraph a few hours before the team was even announced. What a time to be alive. And finally, New Zealand has pulled an ace on the river card and they've decided Aaron should join them for the final 2 games at the end of the year. You know what this means? We could see Aaron Smith versus Antoine Dupont at the end of the year in Paris. This is bigger than Freddie Mercury versus David Bowie or Bill Gates versus Steve Jobs. It's even bigger than Mario Itoje versus Eben Etzebeth. I just need to... What? Okay, this is... And that's the rugby update for this week. I will see you next week after another banquet of international rugby. COVID is well and truly not an issue anymore, it seems. So bye. 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 Just bye.